Jimmy Kimmel makes a cheap dig at Karoline Leavitt's private life on live TV, ridiculing her wedding. But she shuts him down with a razor-sharp response that leaves him at a loss for words. What ignited this blazing battle? Let's dive in. If you're new here, click that subscribe button and leave a comment with where you're viewing from. Let's see who's watching for this classic takedown. The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio in Los Angeles is electric lights shining crowd, abuzz with anticipation. Karoline Leavitt, a rising political commentator and ex-congressional candidate, is the evening's guest, her quick wit and refined presence commanding attention. She's here to talk about her new book, a memoir of her life in politics and surviving public life. But her marriage to a rich older real estate developer has been tabloid gossip, and Kimmel's staff is salivating to take advantage of it. Leavitt's no stranger to difficult interviews, but she's intensely protective of her private life, and any overreach jeopardizes her anger. Backstage, the tension already thick. Leavitt's publicist Tara, a straight shooter veteran, cautioned the producers, "Stick to the book, no personal shots." She is familiar, Leavitt's sharp tongue and the way she shuts down insults, and her language is a clean line. The producers nod, but their grins betray schemes for a tasty morsel, believing a snark about her marriage will draw clicks. Tara's not fooled, her eyes narrowing as she observes them plotting. "They're asking for trouble," she grumbles to a stagehand, who shrugs out of the loop in the green room. Leavitt's reviewing notes, looking at a monitor as Jimmy Kimmel launches the show. Jimmy's in his groove, his monologue cutting through political gossip. The crowd erupts. Leavitt's face is serene, but her fingers drum her book a signal. Tara knows she's prepared for battle. The stage manager winks. It's time, and Leavitt rises, smooths her blazer, and makes for the curtain, poised and unyielding. Out on stage, Jimmy's rapping a little about a celebrity scandal, the audience laughing on cue. He segues to Leavitt's introduction, his voice warm, the fierce and fearless Karoline Leavitt. The band strikes a bold chord. The crowd cheers, and Leavitt emerges her stride, confident, a polite smile in place. She shakes Jimmy's hand firm and sits her posture, alert eyes scanning the set. The cheers diminish, and the air tautens, the room intent on the two in the spotlight. Jimmy begins safe, inquiring about the book, its themes of resilience and public scrutiny. Leavitt answers, her voice clear, engaging, discussing about the difficulty of remaining true in a polarized world. The crowd's with her, nodding, drawn to her conviction. But Jimmy's got a show to run, and he's pursuing a spark. He tosses out a quip about her rapid ascent, asking if her high-end lifestyle assists her in dealing with criticism. Leavitt's smile tightens, her response, measured, "I manage." The audience laughs, but there's a warning in her voice. One Jimmy ignores, feeling an opportunity to dig. Jimmy turns, producing a tabloid article about her marriage to her rich, older husband, smirking. So Karoline, did marrying rich make writing this book easier? Or was it just the private plane? The audience laughs, some gasping. Buying the jab, Leavitt's eyes flash her jaw. "Set, that's out of line," she tells, her voice low, sharp. The studio hushes, Jimmy's smirk faltering. Tara, in the wings, mutters, "Here it comes." Leavitt leans forward, her gaze fixing on Jimmy. "You want to discuss my life? Let's discuss respect." Instead, the crowd stirs, recognizing her shutdown, and this conflict is about to go up in flames. The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio tenses. Karoline Leavitt's biting words. "You want to discuss my life? Let's discuss respect." Instead, cutting with a slice through the air, like a Jimmy Kimmel surprised by her immediate shutdown attempts to laugh it off, his brittle chuckle. "Just a little fun." "Karoline," he says, reclining back, but the crowd's uncomfortable. Their laughter, now a nervous murmur. Leavitt's eyes remain fixed on Jimmy, her anger with his personal jibe scorching her poise. Unshaken backstage, Tara's fists are clenched, her whisper to the stage manager. Fierce, he crossed her line. The stage manager, flustered, signals the control booth to prepare a commercial, but the director's holding back, ratings soaring with each passing second of Leavitt's defiance. Jimmy, feeling the moment slip, adjusts his stance, attempting to turn back to the interview. "Let's go back to your book," he says, his voice trying to keep calm. Targeting to diffuse, he inquires about her political life, seeking to turn towards safer terrain. Leavitt responds, her voice clear, poised, delving into the hurdles of public life. But then she pauses, leaning forward, her tone hardening. "That's what this should be about," she says, glaring at Jimmy. "Not your cheap shots at my marriage for laughs." The jab lands, and the crowd gasps. Some clapping, others gasping. The room splitting into sides. Jimmy's smile wavers, his fingers tapping a cue card he's handled difficult guests. But Leavitt's brusque, cutting reply is disintegrating his control. He attempts to turn, asking about her book's themes of resilience. But Leavitt's not letting it go. "You're not listening," she says. cutting him off, her voice rising slightly. I came here to talk about my work, not to be your punchline for tabloid gossip. The audience stirs some shouting, "Go Karoline," while others boo, mistaking it for drama. Jimmy glances at the floor producer, who's signaling to move on. But Leavitt's voice grows sharper, her shutdown relentless. This whole setup, she says, gesturing at the set, it's built to mock people's lives, not respect them. The crowd noise builds off Leavitt's fire. Jimmy Throne attempts to lean into humor, smiling. Hey, Karoline, we're just joking around. No harm done, he says. But the attempt rings hollow, and the audience can tell. Leave its head tilts. Her eyes narrowing, joking, she says, her voice saturated in disdain. You think people hunger for your low blows. They hunger for real conversations. Some in the crowd stand cheering, while others jeer. The studio crackling with tension. Tara in the wings muttering, "She's got him." The security team, 2 men in black suits, move closer to the stage, but they're wary, feeling Light's command. Backstage, the producers are panicking, voices colliding in the control booth. The director's torn, the numbers are gold. But this is getting away. Let it run. But prep to cut. He snaps. Jimmy, still on stage, attempts to salvage things, inquiring about Leavitt's future plans, hoping respect will suffice. But Leavitt's done with the game. You don't get it, she says, her voice firm-pointed. You think you can bring my personal life through the mud for clicks? I'm here for something better. The crowd erupts, some chanting her name, others shouting for Jimmy to push back. Jimmy's cool unravels, his eyes flashing. He leans forward, dropping the charm. Look, Karoline, we invited you here to talk. He says, his tone biting, perhaps a little thankfulness for that. That's the fire leave. Its eyes burn, her tone low, slashing thankfulness. She speaks her shutdown quick. For what, you taunting my wedding on live television? The crowd loses it, the commotion rattling the set. Some standing in frame, filming, others calling Jimmy's face reams, his hands clasping the desk. The floor producer makes a break call, but the cameras roll on, the moment too big to be halted. Jimmy stands, attempting to take charge. All right, well, let's take a Brad break, everyone, he says. His laugh forced brittle. The band kicks in, but Leavitt's not budging, her glare unbroken, and the crowd's abuzz, aware of her shutdown, putting Jimmy on the ropes. The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio, a storm. The band's frantic song colliding with the crowd's noisy cheers, drinks, and cries of Karoline Leavitt's name as Jimmy Kimmel signals a commercial break. Jimmy waves to the audience, his grin strained, attempting to convey control, but his gaze flicks to the floor producer, who's frantically waving to cut the cameras, though continue to roll. The director in the booth, addicted to the soaring ratings, Leavitt hasn't budged, her glare fixed on Jimmy, her anger at his ridicule of her marriage, of fierce, unrelenting power. Backstage, Tara's glaring at the producers, her voice low-cutting. He's getting destroyed. The security team, lingering close to the stage, shifts uneasily, waiting for instructions. As the band recedes, Jimmy slouches forward too. Leavitt, his voice muted off mic, but the front row picks up snippets. Let's just do this, Karoline, he says. Half plea, half frustration. Leavitt's response sharp. You've crossed a line. Phones up, ringing in the crowd, recording the moment already on the web. Jimmy, sensing the room get away from him, tries to mobilize the audience, throwing up his hands. Folks, we've got Karoline Leavitt, let's show some love. The applause is uneven, drowned by shouts. Some for Leavitt, others for Jimmy to push back. The room's a powder keg. And Leavitt's fight for respect is the spark. Leavitt sits tall, her posture poised, her face unyielding. She's not here for cheers, she's here to defend her boundaries. The stage manager, sweating, signals Jimmy to wrap it. But Jimmy's not backing down. He grabs a cue card, asking about her book's political insights, trying to pivot to neutral ground. Leavitt cuts him off. Her voice clear-cutting. You're still not hearing me, she says, loud enough for the mics. I came to talk about my work, not to be your tabloid punching bag. The crowd erupts, some standing cheering, others booing the divide. Stark, Jimmy's jaw tightens, his usual charm cracking under Leavitt's relentless shutdowns. The host tries to laugh, but it's forced. Karoline, it's just a show, he says, nodding to the set. We're here to be entertained. Leavitt's eyes focus, her tone slipping careful entertainment. You're laughing at my existence for ratings and not entertainment. The words come with a punch, and the audience goes wild. Some cheering on, some booing. The sound drowning. Tara, off stage, nods curtly, familiar with Leavitt being at the helm. The security guys inch closer, their presence heavier, but they keep to themselves, well aware of Leavitt's force. Backstage, producers running round, shouting over one another in the control room. The director's torn. The numbers are huge, but this is spinning out of control. Keep it going, but prep to cut. He orders Jimmy on stage, makes one final attempt to redirect things, asking Leavitt about his future in politics. his tone nearly desperate. "But Leavitt's finished with the game. You're wasting my time," she says, her voice cutting like a blade. "This isn't about my book anymore. It's about you, thinking you can drag my marriage through the mud." The crowd on its feet, some chanting Karoline, others arguing the studio, throbbing with their energy. Jimmy's patience snaps. He leans forward, his tone icy, shedding the host's polish. "Karoline, we brought you here to talk," he says, jabbing at the desk. "Show some respect for that." It's a misstep. Leavitt's eyes flash, and she leans in, her voice quiet, slicing. "Respect's earned," she adds, "not by cheap shots at my personal life." The crowd erupts, the noise deafening, some filming, others screaming, the director finally calling the break, the monitors flashing ads. But Leavitt still seated, her glare unwavering. Jimmy stands muttering to the floor producer, his motions frantic. The house lights down the band still, and security's closing in. But Tara's already in motion, ready to support Leavitt. The audience is twitchy feeling. Her shutdowns have Jimmy backed into a corner, and the stage is waiting for more. The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio is a frenetic hive. The commercial break doing little to calm the energy of the crowd as they mutter some chanting. Karoline Leavitt's name, others shouting at each other in the stands. The monitors flicker with ads, but the cameras remain live, recording every moment for the feed leave. It hasn't shifted, her posture. Upright eyes fixed on the desk where Jimmy Kimmel had been. Her anger at his mocking of her marriage, a blazing force. Jimmy's offstage, his voice biting as he banters with the floor producer, gesticulating wildly. Tara's in the wings, her gaze fixed on the security team. Two wide men in blazers, now near the stage, rigid with caution. The director's shout rings out. Headsets. "Get Jimmy back, but stay tight." The break closes, the lights flashing up, the band straggling into a fast riff. Jimmy reappears, his smile staged, sitting with a strained calm that's not quite able to conceal his tension. "We're back with Karoline Leavitt," he declares, his voice forcing warmth, but applause from the crowd is spotty. The room's still reeling from Leavitt's biting shutdowns. Jimmy attempts to pivot, inquiring about her book's response to public criticism, trying to anchor things in her work. Leavitt responds, her voice steady, firm, discussing navigating criticism. But then she changes gears. "Hardening. That's what this is about," she says, pointing at the set. "Not your barbs about my personal life for likes." The crowd murmurs, some cheering, others shifting the split. Clear Jimmy's fingers clench around a pen, his smile wavering. "We're just having a little fun," he says, reclining back, appealing to the audience. That's the show, right? Some cheer, but boos drown them. The room reclining toward Leavitt stand on respect. "Fun," Leavitt says, her voice low biting. "You're bringing my marriage through the mud for laughs, not respect." The audience erupts, some standing clapping, others shouting for Jimmy to push back. Tara, watching, mutters, "She's running this." The security guards inch closer, their presence heavier, but they're still holding back Jimmy's control phrase, his voice rising. "Karoline, you're a guest here," he says, pointing at the desk. "We're showing you respect. Maybe try giving some back." The crowd feels the challenge, their noise spiking. Leavitt's eyes narrow, her jaws set. "Respect," she says, her voice steady, fierce. "You don't earn it by mocking my life on live TV." The words hit like a whip, and the crowd erupts, some chanting. Karoline, others booing, the studio trembling. Jimmy's face flushes, his hands grasping the desk. He attempts to laugh, but it's strained. "This is a talk show, Karoline, not a courtroom," he says, his tone cutting. "You want to lecture, find another stage, that's the trigger." Leavitt leans in, her voice clear, unyielding. "I came to talk about my work," she says, nodding to the crowd. "You made it regarding my marriage. I do not play your gossip game." The audience erupts, some standing, shooting, others yelling, the set throbbing with their energy. Jimmy stands against the host's rule, his voice increasing. "You know what, Karoline, if you don't like it, you don't have to remain. It is raw, a straight shot, and the viewers lose it." The din overwhelming. Tara takes a step closer to the stage, her gaze on Leavitt, prepared to step in. The floor producer signals security, whispering, "Get ready." The guards close in their steps. Heavy. Leavitt doesn't stand, but her presence dominates, her eyes locked on Jimmy, her shutdowns a tangible force. "Maybe I won't," she says, her voice calm, cutting the crowd. Roars, some cheering her defiance, others jeering, the room a battlefield. Jimmy's had enough. His face red, pointing at Leavitt. "Then go," he says, his voice loud, final. The audience gasps, the noise peaking, some standing recording. The director's yelling to cut, but the cameras roll on the moment, too big to halt. Leavitt's unmoving, her gaze unrelenting, and the stage is seconds from exploding. The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio, A firestorm Jimmy Kimmel's biting command. Then go loosing a storm of cheers, boos and shouts of Karoline Leavitt's name. Leavitt, still on her seat, responds to Jimmy's glare with a steely look. Her anger about his ridicule of her marriage, a seething, relentless force the audience, is on its feet, some chanting for Leavitt, others egging Jimmy on, phones up, streaming the chaos live. The cameras ignoring the director's frantic orders. Keep rolling, feeding the clash to millions backstage. Tara's poised, her eyes darting between Leavitt and the security team, now steps from the stagehands, ready but cautious. The floor producer's voice is shrill, urging Jimmy to de-escalate, but the hosts, too, deep in the fight. Jimmy, his face red, points at Leavitt again, his voice raw. "We gave you a platform to express your book," he says, sweeping his arm to the crowd. "You don't get to tear it apart." The crowd responds, some cheering Jimmy, others booing the commotion, a tidal wave. Leavitt leans forward, her words, sharp, cutting, tear it apart. "You made fun of my wedding for cheap laughter." "Not me," the crowd gasps, then bellows, some clapping at her rebuke. Others shocked the set, shaking with their energy. Tara in the wings nods, a weak smile spreading, knowing Leavitt's grasping the reins Jimmy's thrown. His mouth opening, but Leavitt doesn't stop, her voice cutting, merciless. "You think people want your salacious barbs? They want respect, not your trashy tabloids." The audience explodes, some standing cheering, others screaming. The room dividing further. The security guards move in one, advancing, his voice firm but cautious. "Ma'am, time to go," he says. Aware of Leavitt's commanding presence, Leavitt turns, her glare freezing him cold, calm but piercing. "I'll go when I'm done," she says. Her voice steady. Tara pushes forward, her voice sharp. She moves on her terms. She snaps at the floor producer, who's floundering. Outmatched, Jimmy, stung by Leavitt's shutdowns, tries to rally, sitting back down, his voice shaky. "Karoline, you're making this harder than it needs to be," he says. But the crowd's with Leavitt, their cheers drowning his words. Leavitt stands slow, deliberate, her presence dominating her struggle for personal dignity, unyielding. "Hard," she replies, addressing the audience with a sharp glance. "This guy thinks making fun of my life is entertainment. Who's with me on calling for better?" The crowd is on its feet, some chanting Karoline, others recording her shutdown, a masterclass in poise and flames. The floor producer indicates security again, whispering, "Take her out." The guards hesitate, but one moves forward with a gesturing motion to Leavitt. "Ma'am, please," he says, nearly pleading. Leavitt doesn't even glance at him, eyes on Jimmy, giving one final punch. "Keep your wisecracks. Jimmy, they're all you've got left." The crowd goes wild, cheers and laughter, rocking the set. Jimmy's face ablaze with the sting of her words. Leavitt storms, striding off stage, her walk assured, Tara by her side. Jimmy's left alone, the band launching in clumsily. "Well, that was Karoline Leavitt," he says, trying to laugh, but his voice cracks. Leavitt's shutdowns, leaving him vulnerable to audience's reaction, is divided, the energy splintered backstage. The producers are in freefall, the director shouting about damage control. Tara accompanies Leavitt to the green room, where she takes her bag, unfazed. "Told them to stick to the book?" Tara grumbles. Leavitt just nods her point. Made the internets ablaze, clips of Leavitt's takedown going viral, fans applauding her fire, others arguing the clash. The show stumbles on Jimmy, rushing through the last bits. His pole is shattered by Leavitt's relentless shutdowns, an instant that will define talk show showdowns. For years, the studio for Jimmy Kimmel Live is still shaken. The resonance of Karoline Leavitt's farewell jab. "Keep your jokes, Jimmy. They're all you have left," echoing as crowd cheers, liquor and laughter coalesce into an unrestful hum. Leavitt's vanished, sashaying off stage, flanked by Tara, with Jimmy Kimmel left all by himself. His face red from her withering shutdowns. The riff of the band ends, and cameras still rolling. In spite of the director's instructions, catch Jimmy's forced attempt to get on the audience, some still standing. Filming others bickering is too volatile to resolve their energy, bound up in Leavitt's angry stand for individual respect. Backstage, the producers are in disarray, voices colliding as they rush to save the evening, while security hangs in limbo, unsure what to do. Now that lights abandon the stage, Jimmy sits picking up a cue card, his voice unstable as he attempts to switch. "Well, folks, that was Karoline Leavitt," he says, laughing. But the crowd's reaction is mixed laughter, struggling against murmurs. He desperately tries a bit about the next segment, but the room's not with him, still buzzing with Leavitt's demand for boundaries over tabloid ridicule. The floor producer sweating signals to continue, but the director's in the booth yelling about damage control. The ratings huge, but the show wavering outside the green room. Tara stands watch as Leavitt slips on her coat, her face calm, resolute. They had assumed they could toy with her. Tara whispers, shaking her head. Leavitt just humming, her attention already elsewhere. The studio's vibe doesn't bounce back. Jimmy bulldozes through the last segments. His jokes fall flat, his usual charm seared by Leavitt's acerbic reposts. The audience still tweeting posting, filming more interested in Leavitt's departure than the show itself. Clips of the clash are blowing up online, trending globally with fans praising Leavitt's staunch defense of her personal life, others arguing with her fiery response. The producers convene in an attempt to spin it, but there is no spinning this. It is a moment already larger than the show. A story that will be picked apart as a masterclass in shutting down disrespect. Leavitt, meanwhile, exits the studio into the night in Los Angeles, the sound of the crowd far away growing distant behind her. Tara's at her side, looking at her phone, grumbling about the internet going crazy. "You good?" she asks. Leavitt nods, her stride steady, as a woman who's drawn her line and won the city's lights gleam, but she's untouched, her concentration on the respect she gained back in the studio. The show crawls to an end, Jimmy signing off with a stretched smile. The audience's applause unrestrained, the tale of Leavitt's shutdown eclipses everything, a raw, unscripted confrontation that bared the price of transgressing personal boundaries against one woman's unyielding resolve. This was not merely a talk show spat. It was Karoline Leavitt with grace and passion, knocking out Jimmy Kimmel's tacky teasing and calling for respect, making an impression nobody will ever forget. That's the type of tale that haunts folks. And I'm glad you're here for it. If you're addicted to these heated confrontations, hit that subscribe button to get more. We're constructing a team that's into the real stuff. Leave a comment below. Let me know where you're viewing from. Perhaps Miami, London, or this little off-grid town. What do you believe, was Leavitt right towards Jimmy? Or did she cross the line? Like the video, share with your friends, and keep this discussion going. Stay firm. Stand by what you believe. And I'll see you in the next